Well, he finally did it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Golf on Tap. I'm Jack Bushman here with Ross Baran as always. If you're joining us right off the rip, make sure to hop on over into the YouTube feed to give us your reaction to Rory McIlroy finally doing it, winning the green jacket at the Masters to achieve the career Grand Slam, and also your key takeaways from Augusta National, one of the wildest final rounds, probably the wildest final round, Ross, that I have ever witnessed. Obviously, there's a ton to unpack from this year's Masters, a ton to unpack just from the final round in and alone of itself. But my man, we were both there, Ross, at the start of the week, talking about Rory McIlroy being on our Masters card, and not just us. We had Tweeth Mitchell come on the show last week, a nice special appearance from Tweeth, and also an even more magnificent debut article from Tweeth Mitchell as well, talking about Rory McIlroy's resiliency and just the all-around bounce backs that we saw this weekend at the Masters. If you haven't checked that out, make sure to go and do so already. An incredible read from Tweeth Mitchell. But Tweeth joined the show last week, Ross. He was on Rory. We know our guy, Mr. Tony Marchese, is always on Rory McIlroy. Joey Ricotta got a little piece of him live after touting Justin Rose 125-1. It was an incredible week for us over here at On Tap. Joey and I also both cashed the Justin Rose first round leader, and then Rory McIlroy comes through to win the tournament to just put a cherry on top to an unbelievable Masters week, my man. Lots of emotions, and I'm sure lots of thoughts and takes. But before we get into all of that, Ross, tell me the vibes and how good it feels to sit here on this Monday evening knowing that Rory McIlroy finally did it.
I mean, I think for anyone that hasn't read Tweeth's article, that I think it fully encompassed everything of we may never see this again. I don't know if we're going to see this again. Tweeth said it best that there's 6 people now that have achieved this. 2 of those people aren't even living anymore. The other 2 get trotted out every Thursday morning at 7 a.m. to hit a shot and then get taken away. And the other one ended up completing it literally 25 years ago.
We're in rarefied air, my friend.
So I think it's the biggest thing to understand is we may never see this again. And that's what makes this so cool and so special. It doesn't matter what side of the line that you fall on for this, whether you're LIV, PGA, whatever. If you do not actually truly love the game of golf, then I don't know how you couldn't feel romantic about yesterday or emotional in some way to see that. It doesn't matter if you like Rory or not. You don't have to. If you like the game of golf and truly like the game of golf, yesterday was beyond poetic.
And quite honestly, Ross, I don't even think you have to be someone who loves golf to truly appreciate what yesterday meant, as we give a shout out to Luke, aka Mr. Tweeth Mitchell, down in the chat. Then we got Daniel Barry Sports in the chat as always. I don't even really think you got to be a fan of golf to truly appreciate what happened yesterday, and just the sheer number of text messages I got from different people who I know aren't diehard golf watchers and don't really pay attention to the sport other than the 4 major championships, and maybe not even that, maybe just, the Masters and one more major or compelling leaderboard throughout the course of the season. Like, it was one of the coolest feats. As I talked about on my Blackhawk show this morning, the coolest thing that I've personally witnessed since Tiger won the Masters in 2019. And outside of that, definitely the most inspired, emotional I've been about a sporting accomplishment since the Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup last in 2015. Like, I haven't felt this type of way about something in about a decade, man. It was truly an incredible feat, but an even more ridiculous roller coaster ride that Rory McIlroy put himself and put all of us fans through as we were cheering him on down the stretch of the back 9 there. But honestly, Ross, this entire tournament for Rory McIlroy, you could break up every single day, the first 3 days, and then the final round is kind of like its own 7-part novel in its own way. But it was just the wildest ride to follow Rory into him winning the green jacket. Starting off on Thursday, I kind of want to go round through round, Ross, and get your vibes at the time and how you were feeling about Rory's chances throughout the 4 days. First off, let me just ask you, for that Sunday, how did you enjoy your Masters Sunday? What was kind of your setup? Take me into how you were watching it on TV for that final round.
I had me and Wesley propped up on the couch after playing some bucket golf in the backyard, just sitting on the couch watching. And he's only 4, about to be 5, but he knows a few players. He specifically knows Rory McIlroy. He loves Rory McIlroy. And aside from just every time he sees Scotty Scheffler to this day is still, Scotty Scheffler's a bad guy because he went to jail. And, well, good luck explaining that to a 4-year-old, because that's just the math. That, yes, Scotty Scheffler did the math checks out. He did go to jail. I'm not going to try to explain that whole background and everything else. Just, yes, buddy, you are right. Bad guys go to jail. Scotty Scheffler went to jail. So
we stick to the facts here on this program.
Just we stick to the facts. But he didn't fully understand. But it was part of another thing that Tweeth encompassed in his article, that just I sat there with my son, knowing that in the future, if he remembers a little bit of this, he's going to remember he watched it with his dad and he watched this cool thing happen. Even though he doesn't fully understand the context of what all this means, he'll remember dad being so excited about something that happened and put the pieces together later down the road.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you got to spend Masters Sunday the way that you did, and we got the outcome that we wanted. But it was a wild ride to get there, Ross. As I talked about, we'll begin with Thursday. Rory is absolutely cruising through the opening 14 holes. He's striping the driver. He looks great, 4 under, right there at the top of the leaderboard. And then 15 happens. And we had just seen it a couple of moments prior if you were watching the coverage. I know a lot of people were working. The Masters coverage on Thursday and Friday wasn't necessarily the best, being forced to watch through the app until 2 o'clock Central Time. Patrick Cantlay, just a couple of moments prior to Rory on 15, was in the same spot, long of that green, and just threw 2 into the water. So when Rory was in that same position, I was like, he's got to be careful here. He cannot get too aggressive, cannot let this ball trickle too far down the hill. It's exactly what he does. Puts it into the water. And then 17 makes an absolute mess en route to his second double bogey in 4 holes, wiping out an incredible opening round, falls from the top of the leaderboard, 4 under to even par. And Ross, there have been all those stats that have been shared. You got to be in the top 10 of the Masters after day 1 in order to have a chance, something like 12 of the last 13 winners along those lines. So a lot of people thought Rory McIlroy's chances were cooked. Were you feeling the same way at that point in time? Because me in particular, I knew the upside was just more prevalent than anyone else out there. I wasn't ready to call Rory's chances, completely zero, but I knew he had to go full gas down on Friday.
So I think in the moment, the only thing that concerned me is Brandel Chambly did his interviews earlier this week and was very specific and clear that you cannot make double here. If you make double, it is basically just the knife in the back, done, can't come back. And I think my biggest concern was, statistically, that does tend to be true when you're playing at the Masters, that if you put a double anywhere on your card, it is going to be extremely difficult to stay consistent and bounce back. And my concern was, wow, we just put 2 in the last 4 here, and you saw what that effect had, where we're going from cruising and being a couple shots back to, oh no, we're even now. We're like that and that is essentially, it doesn't need to be, completely statistically factual, is Brandel's kind of implying. It's more the look how fast that happened and what it did for a swing, where he goes from 2 back to, oh no, he's 7 back now. He's 7 back. We're back to even. And it's just that killer message of, this is how difficult and how punishing this can be. Based on how he played up until that time, I knew there's still time. especially because day one, no one's really running away with it other than, I mean, you can say Justin Rose is the catalyst at 7 under, but you traditionally would not think that pace can stay attainable, right? He's gonna go out, he's gonna fire that off, throw himself at the top of the board, but you're going to expect he's coming back down to earth. He's coming back down to the field at some point. So you need to gain your ground back. I thought that was doable, but essentially as we continue through this discussion, I also thought that he had to do what he repeated the following 2 days was the only way he was going to actually get there.
Yeah, and in addition to Justin Rose being at 7 under, right, and knowing there was probably going to be some regression there with the way that he just was making everything in that opening round, which, again, I greatly appreciated to cash that Justin Rose first-round leader ticket. I am someone who is aware of the Justin Rose stat, by the way, having led most rounds of anyone at Augusta National without being a winner. And he actually had been part of my betting card as first round leader for the last 4 years. So it was nice to actually pay that one off. But not only was there probably some regression coming for Rose, but there was also like a clear gap under him, right? Like Rory was only 4 shots back of the pack. So while he did shoot himself in the foot, and also I think what really probably stung for him was not only the 2 double bogeys down the stretch, but he ended up losing by 2 to Akshay and 3 to Ludvig in that opening round. And like through 14 holes, he was really taking it to those guys, but both of them finished really strong. Rory Field, the complete opposite. I was like, man, shaking those guys' hand after that round, knowing they got the better of you by multiple strokes, despite how well you played for those opening 14 holes, has to be just such a kick to the nuts. But then we get the 66 on Friday, the low round of the day, which started pretty slowly, Ross. I believe he was only 1 under through that front side, but then went and shot 5 under 31 on the back 9 with that incredible eagle that he went and had at the 15 to get his redemption there. That was actually 13, wasn't it? 13, He had the crazy shot from the pine straw, put it to like 8 feet, went to roll in the eagle putt. And once he made that, it was like, no freaking way. We're back in business here. And then he goes and backs that up, Ross, with another 66 on Saturday with one of the most incredible start that we've ever seen at Augusta National. 6 consecutive threes from Rory. You get the birdie at the first, you get the chip-in eagle at the second, absolutely dialed through those middle 2 rounds to get himself right back into the driver's seat. So following that 3rd round, which by the way, I do want to throw in, he had an opportunity to build on that a little bit more. And Bryson, of course, went on to make some clutch putts down the stretch of the 3rd round, with the most notable one being at the 18th to cut the deficit down to 2. What were your vibes on Rory following that 3rd round and knowing he was going to sleep on the lead with 18 holes to play for the first time at Augusta National? Where was your mind at for that, Ross?
So I think the beginning was you, Tweeth, and I texting in the beginning of the day, and I don't know exactly what it was because it didn't seem different to the naked eye, but I just dropped a message in our chat to start that, oh, good God, that walk to the tee was different.
Yeah, you did say that.
That walk to that first tee was different.
And when he's strutting, man, you know he's feeling it when he's strutting like that. He's just got that special pounce.
I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to explain it. Just there was something different in his aura. Everything as he walked from the practice facility to the first tee that I had to just jump up in that chat and be like, oh shit, boys, something cool is about to happen.
And that's exactly what transpired.
And we get birdie, eagle, birdie right out of the gate. End up taking the lead, running, and that was my moment. Like, oh, we're not being beat today. Like tomorrow can be a new day. Today is his day. Today, this is his moment, and he is going to carry this in overnight and sleep well tonight. That he put himself back in a position that a couple of days ago, realistically, he should not be able to be in.
And then that takes us to a day I certainly will never forget. One of the most iconic days and iconic finishes in Masters history. That was legitimately a movie in and alone of itself. And I don't think this could have possibly been scripted, Ross. The highs, the lows, the peaks, the valleys. I mean, I could barely feel my body by the time this was all said and done. I had clammy hands. My legs were shaking. It was one of the craziest things I have truly ever experienced. Going from, well, we'll just start right at the beginning. Rory's got a 2-shot lead. I referenced Bryson DeChambeau with a strong close. I believe he birdied 3 of the final 4 holes to make it a 2-shot deficit going into Sunday. Rory had been finding success the last 2 rounds, driving it right over that bunker at number 1. And Ross, I think that was really the sign that, in addition to the strut we got from Rory walking to that first tee, how far he pummeled it over that bunker on number 1 on Saturday, the 371-yard drive where there were no divots and anywhere near Rory in the fairway there. That was, I mean, the real sign that it was going to be a good day. And I think we got a sign it was going to be a little bit of a shaky day, although we did not know how shaky or how chaotic it was going to be. Rory finds the fairway bunker off of the first tee. He's so far up near the lip that he has to lay up in the fairway and then gets sloppy with his approach, sloppy with his first putt, winds up making double bogey 6. And in the matter of minutes, all the great work that he did in that 66 on both Saturday and Friday to get himself that 2-shot lead, it was gone in the blink of an eye. What were your feelings when Rory doubled the first right out of the gate, Ross? Here we go again.
Brando Chambly's exact words that you can't. And then it led into the, well, we already got 2. And then we put these phenomenal rounds together to save it. And then I sat there and went, oh, this is 3. This is actually a real thing. Like this, in that moment, I went, okay, this is actual trouble because now we're defying math, essentially, is what the task is here now.
3rd double bogey of the week, right out of the gate, a gut punch. And then Rory finds the bunker again at the 2nd. Bryson DeChambeau winds up making birdie, and the lead is gone right off the bat, which Rory said following the round that it might have, been good for him in hindsight, as crazy as that sounds, kind of getting him back into it and steadying the ship a little bit. And that proved to be right because he responded nicely, Ross, by birdieing number 3, birdieing number 4 as well. And Ross, to me, number 3 was the turning point in the Bryson DeChambeau versus Rory McIlroy 1v1 conversation here, because Bryson had that opportunity to really go and put pressure on Rory the rest of the way. He was 1 under through the opening 2, made a great par save at the first, and he has the tee box first at number 3 and elects not to hit driver, which I thought was a very questionable decision considering he was legitimately one of the worst iron players all week long. His scrambling was just immaculate. It was like as good as it was at Pinehurst for him to win the U.S. Open, and he was absolutely nuking the golf ball off the tee, which he always does, but the iron play was really letting him down. I know because of that pin location, a lot of different people were electing to lay up instead of pushing it way up there, but Bryson lays up. Rory goes and pushes his driver up there, and even he said the chip at 3 was really the turning point in the round. He hits a good chip, puts it up to about 8 or 9 feet, winds up making the birdie, whereas Bryson, now he has to hit an iron shot into this green. He misses the green there. As the broadcast said, no one had gotten up and down from that left side of the green all day long. Bryson winds up making bogey there, and that was a 2-shot swing after a 2-shot swing at the first. And then Rory was able to build off of that momentum at the 4th, making another birdie at the incredibly tough and long par 3. Bryson makes another sloppy bogey. All of a sudden, Rory's up 3 despite making a double bogey at the first. It was like, how did this happen?
Yeah, well, just in hindsight, off air and offline, I had some conversations with some of our friends and acquaintances that happen to fall on the other side of the line for professional golf. And obviously we're talking about our bets, our cards, everything. And my biggest thing when they were asking me about why no Bryson, when they know I like Bryson, they know I've supported Bryson a lot in the past. Why no Bryson? And my answer all weekend was Augusta is such an intricate course. Bryson is such an intricate player that I did not believe this time around hitting my 8-iron at 30% is the perfect shot would transition over 4 days here.
And that's what we saw.
Other places, other courses. Yes, I understand how dialed in, how intricate he is. But my opinion for going into this week was Augusta is just a different level of intricate, just as intricate as he is, that I just thought that type of decision-making and play was not going to be sustainable for 4 whole days. That 6-iron at 70%, 8-iron at 30% is my shot. No, that I did not see that when Rory can lay up and know my 8-iron at full swing is the club on this hole, or it's a 7-iron full swing is the club on this hole. That I just didn't see that adding up over the course of 4 days for Bryson. And really that was the downfall of this 4th and final round, was when he needed the intricacy to play all the way through and be there. It was not.
And I didn't think he was going to be able to have the scrambling ability to get up and down enough around Augusta, which he sure proved me wrong in that department, especially around the bunker. But like you just said, the intricacies and having to hit those precise numbers make it tough for a player like Bryson, who's so feel-oriented, and you reference the clock system that he has, right? It's like a rock meeting a hard place. They kind of butt heads a little bit, and he's even talked about that specifically on the putting greens here too, because he's like so scientific and so numbers driven, and because these greens are so fast and so sloped, like his numbers don't always align. Like Bryson and Augusta are always just going to be kind of a weird match. But I thought that 3rd hole in particular was what really opened the door back up for Rory McIlroy to get back in the driver's seat, and also took Bryson from right at the top and having all the mojo to kind of starting to lose it there a little bit. And Rory was able to continue to ride that vibe, Ross, despite not being able to hit very many fairways on that front 9, found himself in trouble at number 7. And I'll say a truly incredible shot, probably 4 more times as we break down Rory McIlroy's final round here, but truly an incredible shot out of the trees at number 7. He talked to the media after and said this was one he actually backed Harry Diamond off of, that he was the one who said, I'm just going to hack a 9-iron. I got a gap there, just got to cut it enough. Went and pushed his man off of that and goes and nearly flies it into the hole. Unfortunately, he went on to miss the putt, but I think that was just an incredible moment that gave Rory some more confidence. And then he continued to ride that, Ross, with the birdie at number 9, the birdie at number 10, going full Hideki style and dropping the club from the middle of the fairway, only to put it about 15 feet away from the hole and then proceed to make it the putt. And suddenly, we're 8 holes to go, Ross, and Rory McIlroy has himself a 4-shot lead. And I don't know about you, but to me, well, obviously it felt real, and the possibility of him doing it was there going into that final round with him having the 2-shot lead. But this is when it really, really felt real to me, is when he made those back-to-back birdies at number 10 and number 11 to kick off the back 9. Or number 9 and number 10, to kick off the back 9.
Yeah. And so the way I looked at this was when we got to this point, I looked at it and said, up and down through Amen Corner, and it's a coast. And that up and down through Amen Corner is me accounting that a 4 at the 12th is an up and down. That just the par 3, fucking launch it off the back into the hill, let it roll down, get stuck up there, whatever, chip back down the hill, just take your medicine, probably 2-putt it for a bogey, whatever. That's an up and down there at this point in time in this tournament. Just get it dry, get it over there, take the medicine, get back out. But Rory had other plans for us.
Yes, he did. And the first near hiccup happened at number 11. And I felt the same way, Ross. Amen corner. Once he got that birdie at 10, I knew what lies ahead, right? Amen corner, the 3 holes with the water. I knew he still had to clear that hurdle. And very similarly to you, I was giving him 1 bogey at either number 11 or number 12. He just had to avoid double, could not have that blow up hole. And it was pretty much going to be smooth sailing the rest of the way. My first sign of concern, and I texted you and Tweeth in our chat, just straight ... came at number 11. When he blocks his drive right, he has that tree to his left, so he doesn't have like a direct path at the green. He's going to have to hit that big draw hook. And previously, we had just seen Ludvig in the couple of groups prior lay up from that spot, pitch out to the left, and he actually got up and down and made 4. And quite honestly, like I said, Rory could have afforded to have made a 5 there. So I thought a chip out was like a 50-50 play. If not a chip out, though, something very benign up the right side, nowhere near the left. That shot at 11 truly is unacceptable for him to be hitting at this stage of his career with that much on the line. Harry and Rory have to be smarter than that to take that type of line into the... Was he trying to set himself up for like a 15-foot birdie look, Ross? Like, to take on that much risk there, I mean, he was very, very fortunate that didn't go in the water. Probably another full rotation and that ball's in the water. He still winds up making the 5 there, goes on to par Golden Bell, number 12, finds the green right over the bunkers like we see all the champions do. We know that's one huge hurdle to clear there. And then we get to the 13th hole, my friend. Rory absolutely pelts the drive. And before we even get into the rest of this hole, Ross, let me just ask you, did you like the decision to lay up from Rory on that hole despite hitting a perfect drive? Because this was a huge talking point from a lot of different people. Did you like the decision for him to lay up there, or would you have rather him gone for it in that position?
So I think at any other time, any other place, maybe any other situation, I'm okay with a layup there.
I am too.
I am okay with a layup. In this very specific instance, with what is being chased, what is being gone for overall in the grand scheme of things, I felt like that was a little bit of too much taking your foot off the gas and Rory not being full Rory. I thought that was if the double's going to come, it's going to come off of you trying to stick it, right? You're in general, I wouldn't even expect a double. I was expecting, like, here's the drive. Now you're going to go for it. Maybe you hit the bank, it rolls into the creek, whatever. You'll go up there, chip it up and down. You hit it to 8 or 9 feet. You knock down the putt. There's the bogey and you're out, right? And that's what we're also accounting for again in Amen Corner, that we are accounting one of these you are going to drop. But I felt that at that moment, he was setting himself up and almost just being too conservative in that moment. And just for how competitive Rory is and that drive in general, I felt like that was the moment I did not agree with. That's the one you got to stay in your rhythm. You got to do what you would normally do here. You did it the last 3 days, man. You did it the last 3. Why are we going to change the formula right now, especially when you have this lead? Because like I said, the worst thing that's going to happen is what? You're going to come up short. You're maybe going to put it off the bank. It's going to roll back into the creek. You're going to drop up there. You're going to chip it up and down over, and you're going to take your medicine and you're going to walk out there with 1 extra.
I honestly didn't mind the decision, but I will say, like, in hindsight, I think he only had like 235 yards in, and it's like, you can afford to make bogey in this situation. You just really can't make double here. And in that sense, he probably should have just went for it, because even if you do hit it in the creek, you're just chipping up. You'll still have an opportunity to get up and down for 5. Worst case scenario, you probably make 6. But all of this would be moot point, Ross, if Rory McIlroy didn't block a wedge 30 yards right from 70 yards out. I mean, truly, Ross, that is a golf shot that me and you hit. Like, legitimately, Rory McIlroy has no business hitting that golf shot. And when I saw him push it that far, and it's not even like it was close to the pin, dude. I mean, it barely hit the top of the ridge before kicking on down in the creek. Like, he missed his spot by like 20 to 30 yards, man. It was a 15 handicapper type of miss. And we had seen so many guys throughout the day, guys who did have to lay up, just throwing it to that long top part of the green and letting the ball go and trickle out. That had to have been the aiming spot, right? And it's another situation where you just hit the green from there. You're looking at 5. You almost got to make a mess to make 6. So again, like I understood the decision-making of Rory McIlroy laying up, but the execution was just absolutely god awful. And it couldn't have come at a worse time, Ross, because not only does he go on to not get up and down, but Justin Rose almost simultaneously makes birdie at number 16. And from once being up 4 shots with 8 holes to play, Rory McIlroy is now tied for the lead after the 13th. Take me through your mind at that point in time, because I almost didn't want to check my phone, dude. I was so hurt.
This is where it gets tough for me, because it's very hard to go out and just blatantly say, like, Justin Rose winning the Masters would disappoint you, right?
Yeah,
like
I love
it. It is so fucking hard to honestly be like, oh my God, Justin Rose won this fucking thing. When any other year, any other situation, we're going, oh my God, this is incredible. This is awesome. And then this is the one situation that you're like, he's really gonna win this fucking thing right now and just ruin our days. Fuck you, Justin. so just something you would never say, because he is the nicest, loveliest man, in most adorable man in the world. You just can't not like him, right? It's physically impossible to not be able to like him. And in that moment, we're all sitting there going, fuck you, Justin Rose, that you just ruined my Sunday.
Literally, I posted on X and I was gassing up Justin Rose a ton on Thursday. I posted that picture that I took with him back at the BMW Championship, because he's one of those, like, I don't want to call him an old time golfer, because I think that would be a little disrespectful to him, but he's like one of those guys from that early era when I like was first learning about golf and I only knew like a handful of names. He was one of the first guys that I knew. So I was gassing him up and I put on X like, Rosie, I love you with all my heart, but just not right now, my guy. What's crazy, Ross, is we've already been through a hell of a ride here and we got a hell of a one to go, because Rory, after that double bogey at 13, winds up making a mess of 14 as well, misses the fairway, can't get up and down with his chip. His putt literally misses the right lip by like that much. Boom. From once being 14 under, Rory McIlroy has gone 4 over in a 4-stretch hole to fall out of the lead at the Masters with 4 holes left to play. Then Jim Nance, a shot of a lifetime. Rory hits an incredible draw hook around the trees at 15, going for the green. Again, Ross, one of those moments where we knew it was good because Rory was walking right after it, throws a dart to 8 feet, but then goes and misses the eagle putt. And it was the same thing at 16. He goes and throws a dart and misses the birdie putt. It was like, dude, help yourself out here, my man. Please, Rory, make a putt.
So what we're missing here this entire time is after the 13 is the little birdie in the ear again, Brandel Chambly.
Yeah.
You can't make double. And now we're at 4 now.
2 on the day, 4 on the turn.
We're at 4 on this week. And this is once again, as all these things are happening, I'm sitting there and going, he's literally basically defying the law of statistics, and he's breaking math. He's literally breaking math is what's going on here. Or if you want our desired outcome, is you are breaking math. You are saying math does not work. For the first time in the history of math, it does not work, is what you're trying to basically prove right here, right now. And then he goes out and he hits shot of a lifetime on 15. He goes out there follows up on 16 with another good effort. And these are the 2 holes that you're starting there with Brandel Chambly's words the whole time, where that you're sitting there and you're finally going like, this is where it evens out. This is where he was right. This is what he was talking about, that he's hitting these incredible shots. He's hitting these shots of a lifetime, but he's not fully capitalizing and making the difference, because you can't make double here. And that's just the law of the land. You can't make double here. It will come get you at some point. And now we're sitting at 4 on the double calculator. And now we're watching him hit these incredible shots, and he's just not capitalizing off these shots of a lifetime as you need him to. And it's just Brandel's words running through my head the whole time, going, oh my God, as much as I dislike him at times, I'm like, he's right.
Yeah,
he's right. This is what we're watching. He is right. We're watching it play out. We're watching it act out live on this screen, that it doesn't matter. Rory's hitting these shots of a lifetime being called by Jim Nance, because the math is mathing, that Brandel said you can't make that many doubles here and win this fucking thing.
One thing I do want to throw out, we give Brandel Chambly a good amount of flack on this program. I thought he was pretty good for this Masters week, like probably the most tolerable. And I'm someone who's been pretty open about despising Brandel in the past, particularly at last year's U.S. Open, just so blatantly rooting against Bryson and basically calling his championship a luck box around Pinehurst, getting fortunate break after fortunate break. I thought he did a pretty good job here Masters week. Definitely wanted to throw that out there. Rory misses the eagle putt at 15. That really would have put him back firmly in the driver's seat. Still winds up making birdie there to go and grab his 1-shot lead. Justin Rose, an incredible birdie at the 18th. And Ross, I don't know about you, but I was literally praying that he would make a 4. Nope. Justin Rose, dead center cup, goes full fist pump with the cap in the hat. The patrons at Augusta, I quite honestly wasn't sure how they were going to react there because of all the theatrics going on around Rory McIlroy, and the broadcast was showing the reactions of the scoreboard flashing up, double bogey. Ross,
if we could pause there for a second.
Yes.
That was some of the best cinema,
yes,
and videography that we bitch and moan and complain about the coverage every single week. That was just nail on the head what the people want to see. That it's like the Cubs at Wrigley with the scoreboard, watching them change it out, and watching the fans' reaction. See Rory jump to 13 to drop to back to 11, and now Rose gets put up at 11, and everyone going nuts like, oh shit, that happened. Like, no, that was cinema. That was cinema. That they had it perfect. They had it right. They knew what they needed the cameras on, and they rolled it on perfect to get those reactions. But I think they almost did it by accident at one point, and they saw what the reaction was, and that they got that on camera. And then you finally just have the smart executive in the booth going, keep doing it. Every couple holes as these things happen, you got to go back and flash it again and show it again. And it rolled and it played and it was perfect.
I mean, I could not imagine finding out in person, sitting right in front of the scoreboard, that Rory had just made double at number 13. Some of the reactions from the people that were putting their hands on their heads, I was like, oh my goodness. But that was a great pickup by the broadcast. Keep going back and forth to that to get the patrons' reactions to the crazy swings that were going on there down the stretch. I mentioned Rose makes the birdie at 18 that has him tied with Rory once again. But then on the 71st hole from 186 yards out, Rory throws an absolute dart, and you hear him saying, go, go, go. From the second it leaves his club face, bounces up to just about 4 feet, and he rolls in the birdie putt. And Ross, this now gives him a 1-shot lead heading to the 72nd hole. All Rory McIlroy needs is a 4 to achieve the career Grand Slam, to finally don the green jacket at Augusta National. And he gets the hard part out of the way, Ross. He absolutely blisters a tee shot right down the middle of the fairway. I was saying before he hit it, Rory, You're the best driver of the golf ball this game has ever seen. Find this fairway, and this green jacket is fucking yours. He found the fairway, and I was ecstatic, bro, because I knew it was only going to be a flip wedge in. And while the approach game has, like, historically never been a strength of Rory McIlroy's game, it was especially a strength this week and has been for him throughout the course of the season. A major talking point has been how controlled those 3/4, like sawed-off finishes to his wedge shots have been, leading to victories at Pebble Beach and TPC Sawgrass. Has 126 yards out on the 72nd hole and blocks it right into the fairway bunker because, of course, it's Rory McIlroy. Nothing is easy. Throws the bunker shot to about 5 feet, and he has the putt for immortality. Even on the broadcast, they put up in the top left, Ross, putt to win the career Grand Slam. And while I knew he had a bad track record of putts, wasn't really making the close ones in the last couple of holes prior to the 71st hole. Obviously, there were the missed short putts at the U.S. Open. I personally really thought he was going to make that one. I thought that was going to be the dagger. And when that one slid by left, I threw my hat in the ground in disbelief because I could not believe he just made a bogey at the 72nd hole to blow his opportunity at winning the green jacket.
So for the 72nd hole,
we can laugh now, but legitimately, I couldn't believe he made that mess with a wedge, dude.
For the 72nd hole, my worst fear is going to the tee box, and all I had was that stupid clip of Brooks Koepka from Friday and them doing, "Do you want to build a snowman?" and showing Brooks.
Shout out to Byron Lindeque at the Model Maniac on Twitter for creating that video. I know it's been thrown around a lot of different places. He was the OG creator of that. That was a phenomenal video, by the way.
Yes. So once he puts it in the fairway, that video's gone. I'm sitting there going, all right, here we go. And then we get our hearts ripped out. We get our hearts ripped out on 72. And I'm sitting there and going, oh my God, this is just the mathing and saying that Rory shouldn't put up 1, let alone put up 2, let alone put up 3, let alone put up 4. That, oh my God, this is going to be the mathing and the universing. Justin Rose is going to win this fucking thing in a playoff, isn't he? Because it's just going to be Brandel again in the back of my head saying you can't win if you do this many times.
It was like Rory kept poking the fate bear. He could not get out of his own way. And it's like the feeling I was having is, how many more times can you keep rolling the dice and keep getting away with it? It was almost like the Aaron Paul, he can't keep getting away with it gif, like double bogey, short miss putt, mistake.
But this is where we get to the moment that, in my opinion, is going to live in infamy at Augusta and be a story told at Augusta for a very long time. And that is in the cart ride back to the tee for the first playoff hole. Harry Diamond just being the absolute master class of what your golfer needs right now. And Harry Diamond shoulder tapping Rory McIlroy in the cart and telling him, if I told you that we were going to be sitting in this spot on Monday, you would have taken this every single time. Now go finish. Boom, done, case closed, over.
Got his man right. And the funny part about it, Ross, too, and I'll give you my thoughts on the Harry Diamond situation in just a second. The funny part about him getting it done in that playoff, Ross, after Harry Diamond gets him back on track, is he hits damn near the same drive and has basically the same exact yardage in coming in. And now he's head-to-head with Justin Rose, a guy who had just made 10 birdies like an absolute sicko in the final round of the Masters to shoot 66. I mean, as scorching hot as it could be. Guy who had birdied the 18th in regulation with that same pin location just about an hour earlier. Rosie goes first because Rory obviously outdrives him. Rose hits it to about 15, 16 feet. A good look at birdie. Rory's got the same yardage in. It's just another flip wedge. The exact same look that he had on the 72nd hole. This time fixes the error, perfectly runs it down the slope, trickles it to just a couple of feet. Justin Rose winds up missing the putt, which, by the way, as I saw someone point out on social media, it was damn near the same exact putt that Sergio Garcia had in the playoff to beat him the first time that Justin Rose was in the playoff. Rose winds up leaving it outright, and then the stage is set for our man. A moment that will play in my head, Ross, legitimately forever. Rory knocks home the 3-footer. The epic reaction of throwing the putter, dropping to his knees, Harry Diamond running over to him, the patrons going absolutely crazy with chants of Rory. One of the coolest moments I've truly ever witnessed, and not ashamed to admit that I definitely teared up watching Rory show his emotions, the scream, the walk through the patrons, and just him taking it all in with tears in his eyes, knowing that burden had been lifted off of his shoulders. And he finally is part of golf immortality, achieved the career Grand Slam, only the second player to do it since, Tiger Woods come into this game, really only the second player of the modern day era to go and do it. The look on his face, the hug with his family, the hug with Shane Lowry really hit different, man. One of the coolest things I've truly ever witnessed, Ross, something I'll never forget.
And then even cooler, just the random thing that got leaked today, immortality catching immortality. The fact that the photo that circulated and went around everywhere was Ken Griffey Jr. shot that photo.
How cool. How sick is just that Seattle Mariners old squad? Little did Lou Piniella know about his boys. All they wanted to do was take photographs. Randy Johnson, Ken Griffey Jr. just out here taking some high-level photos, man.
Yeah, the fact that photo has circulated online for a day now, and then today someone randomly just pointed out, like, did you see who the photo credit is actually from? And it's like, oh no, it's one of the best hitters of all time in Major League Baseball. It happened to be the one that snapped that one.
Incredible, man. Couldn't be more happy for Rory. It's always weird, Ross, because you never, ever feel this way while it's going down. But those crazy rides, I mean, when it winds up working in your favor, of course, we were all cheering for Rory McIlroy. Great to get the biggest squad ride win we've ever had in the On Tap Sportsnet history with me, you, Tweeth, Joey, and Tony all cashing Rory McIlroy. I don't know if that's a feat we'll ever accomplish together ever again. It was a miraculous week, man, to be on board with Rory. And as I talked about on the show with you and Tweeth last week, all of us said going into the year that Rory McIlroy was our Masters winner. We all bet him once again last week. I couldn't afford to be squiddy watching from the sidelines. I wrote in my article, too, when I read up Rory as my favorite bet, that I just could not fathom missing out on a Rory bet while also watching him achieve history. Seriously, one of the best weekends of my entire life, man. No doubt about it.
Don't worry. I've had a feature in on him at Quail Hollow since January, so we're going to ride this right back in 4 weeks.
Oh, it's going to be a fun ride. I'm actually going to be at one of my boys' bachelor parties out in Scottsdale for the PGA Championship. So, that one's going to be quite the event. But before we kind of get into some of our other Masters takeaways, our long thoughts on Rory and what this means for him moving forward, I do definitely want to talk about, your thoughts on, or what you said about Harry Diamond and his little, I think it was a perfectly timed comment that wasn't too serious, but also like the perfect thing to get Rory back in gear, because these are two guys that have known each other their entire life. Obviously, like the most, gut-wrenching thing possible had just happened to Rory, and a couple of hours prior, And I'm sure Harry, and almost like with a little bit of a smile on his face, was like, well, if I told you we were at this point on Monday, you would have absolutely taken it. And I'm sure there was part of Rory that got a little bit of a chuckle out of him, was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. It doesn't matter what just happened. I'm still at this point, and I still have a chance to achieve the goal that I've long waited for. And for him to get it done after that fact was just so cool. And obviously there's been tons of discourse on Harry Diamond over the last couple of years and the decision making for Rory and some of these close calls and whatnot. I think this was, Ross, and I don't really mean this like, I really don't mean this disrespectfully whatsoever, but I think this was a perfect capture of exactly what type of caddy Harry Diamond is, and that he's a motivator for Rory McIlroy. And that's kind of always what he's been. And while there are some criticisms that I think are valid in terms of club selection from time to time, and whether or not Rory truly, I feel like Rory's the one who has the control in the relationship and ultimately to make the final decision, which of course golfers always do have with that relationship with caddies, right? They're the ones who are pulling the trigger ultimately. But I think it was just a perfect example of what Harry Diamond just has to do for his man. And that's be a great motivator and give him the confidence and self-belief and be the like psychologist for him, almost to always have him in the right state of mind. Because quite honestly, when you're on the bag for one of the most talented players of all time, yes, getting the numbers right is important. And yes, getting the angles right is important, and leaving yourself in proper shots and taking out some of the risks on the golf course, which number 11 was way too close for comfort. But at the end of the day, when you're a caddy for that talented of a player, you know when your moments are going to come, and that was one of them for Harry Diamond. He had to get his man in the proper state of mind because there was still golf left to be played despite everything that had happened. And that's what Harry Diamond is to Rory McIlroy, a motivator and his best friend in the entire world, someone who has a connection with him that no one else has. And that's what Rory McIlroy needed in that moment out of Harry Diamond. And that's what Harry Diamond was for him. And that's what Rory needs him to be, I feel like, more times than not. So yes, while there are, I think, fair criticisms thrown Harry Diamond's way, I also think to say that he is not the correct caddy for Rory McIlroy would be an improper judgment on their relationship, because clearly Harry Diamond matters to Rory McIlroy. And I agree with you, Ross. I think that is a conversation and a comment that is always going to be looked back at with this, 2025 Masters. That'll be remembered and put into the legend books forever, put in the record books forever. We'll remember Harry Diamond saying that to Rory McIlroy, I believe, because it's one of those great comments that ultimately led to one of the greatest achievements in this game history. And I don't think that should be forgotten about about Harry Diamond. And Rory McIlroy made sure to outline that in his presser, saying, this is much his as it is mine.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing that I think was a little bit overlooked. And then just the more I focused on it, the more I thought that that's just one of those things that when it comes to Augusta and the Masters and the lore and the history that is here, I looked back at that all day today and thought, God damn, that's going to go over time. That comment and that phrase is just going to become more solidified and more synonymous with this moment, that I think it was just really overlooked in the moment because of the Grand Slam. But it really is that thing that solidifies and brought it all together, that Rory just had this monumental collapse and is going back and is kind of all over the place mentally. And it's Harry Diamond just cracking the joke like, if I told you on Monday we were going to be in this position, you would take this every single time. Now go finish it.
I completely agree. And I think there are a lot of things, Ross, ultimately that are going to get overblown about this year's Masters just because there was so much craziness going on. And one of those things, quite honestly, and I do think it's still talked about on social media, but doesn't get the full conversation or discourse that it probably should, because Rory achieved the career Grand Slam in the fashion in which he did, was Bryson DeChambeau really should have had this thing, man. I know he didn't play like his best stuff, even throughout the course of the week. We talked about his iron play. He was one of the worst in the entire field. But all Bryson had to do was shoot 71 in that final round to go and get into that playoff. 70 would have gone on to win it for him. And as I talked about, he got off to a fine start and got that, one-shot lead through the opening 2 holes, but really didn't do much with it the rest of the day. And if he had just hung around and been able to avoid some of those disastrous bogeys that he made in the blow-up hole at number 11, I know in the time he probably felt like he had to press, right? But with everything that wound up transpiring in those final 8 holes, like, Bryson easily could have been right there, in my opinion. So I'm sure this is one that's tough for Bryson to swallow, because even with like his B- C+ game, he probably gets into that playoff. But not only did I want to get your thoughts on that with Bryson, Ross, we definitely got to talk about Bryson's comments following the round, which I don't really think are all that much whatsoever, saying that Rory didn't really want to talk to him and kind of saying that's not really the way he would go about things. I don't really think there's all that much to talk about here, quite honestly. I think it's just 2 guys who go about the game very, very differently and have 2 very different personalities. But this game needs rivalries. And Liv has taken most of the villains away from the PGA Tour. We don't get many rivalries in the modern day anymore. Rory McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau as a rivalry. Just hearing Bryson have those types of comments and knowing they're not like the closest of friends and have had these neck and neck battles at the last couple major championships has me pumped up for the final 3, even more so this year, Ross, and especially the Ryder Cup that we got later on this fall as well.
I thought about this all fucking day today of the comments, and well, he didn't say a word to me all day, everything. And I have one drop the bomb take, case closed, over. Did we forget what the fuck Tiger Woods just did for the last 30 years?
Yeah.
Tiger didn't say a goddamn word to anyone any single goddamn round. He hit the ball. He moved ahead. He kicked your ass. At the end, he would talk to you. For the 18 holes in between, he was locked in. You did not exist because he's the only one right now.
Yeah, it's as simple as
where did that get? Did we just forget Tiger Woods is a thing? That Rory just tied Tiger and caught Tiger with being another member of the Grand Slam. No, this is a stupid thing that the media is going to overblow and make stupid. Tiger Woods didn't say a goddamn word to anyone for 25 fucking years.
I completely agree.
Don't be offended that he did not talk to you, because for 18 holes he was locked in on a job he had to do. He'll shake your hand and say nice job at the end.
Yeah, like, sorry, Rory McIlroy had to, go and make golf history. It's a little bit stressful, Bryson. I don't really think it's much of a story, but what I will say is, again, I'm all here for the rivalries being pumped up or whatever it is, even if it's just like a little bit of a narrative. It's good for the sport. It draws more attraction, especially from people who aren't the diehard followers. If they think there's some disdain between Rory and Bryson, 2 of the biggest names in the sport, that's ultimately a good thing for the sport moving forward. But for Bryson, man, it's just he just says things that irk me when things aren't going his way. And I'm one of the biggest Bryson fans. I absolutely love the guy. I love his mad scientist mentality, the tinkering. I've talked many times on the show about I love how he can react with the crowd and still play high-level golf. I think that's much needed in this game. But when he's not in firm control, when he's not controlling the narrative, Ross, he just does these little things that, and again, I think it makes people hate him, which I don't think is ultimately bad for the game either. But it was like the match back in the fall or whenever it was. Things weren't going his way early. He takes out the headpiece, doesn't want to be the fun guy anymore. And it's like things didn't go well for Bryson in that final round. He's got to go and make a talking point or make another set of storylines. You know what I mean? He always finds, I think, these little things to point out whenever things aren't going his way. But that's just Bryson DeChambeau. He goes about things differently. And again, golf is better with rivalries. So hopefully he and Rory McIlroy have another final pairing going toe-to-toe with one another, because quite honestly, Ross, I think that was the pairing that would be received the best going into this final round, Bryson and Rory. That's ultimately what we got. The numbers certainly reflected that as well. The most watched golf event since all the way back in 2018. Another guy who should have been right there, Ross, Patrick Reed. Obviously, he holed out at number 17. Who knows if that winds up happening, if he's actually in contention or not. But the ugly 3-putt that he had at the 15th, looked like he was going to make birdie, winds up making bogey there. He ends up finishing solo third and was only 2 shots back from that playoff. I mean, we would have never been able to tell because I think we got 4 Patrick Reed shots all weekend, but P. Reed sneakily always plays good golf at Augusta, man. He should have been right there, though. He's got to be kicking himself as well.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I didn't pay a lot of attention to Patrick Reed. I saw him creep up the board. Again, plays Augusta well, always has played Augusta well. Another name that gets the people talking because of obvious reasons. But just like a lot of other players, left a lot out there. Left a lot out there. Could have been a whole different vibe, whole different situation if some of those go down.
Definitely. And I don't know if that would have been, or if that's more true for anyone, Ross, than Ludvig Aberg, who finished bogey triple, was playing tennis with himself there on 18 to close out the tournament, which was really tough because one of my best buddies had Ludvig top 5 at, I think, plus 400 and had $100 on him. And that triple bogey at the 72nd hole prevented my buddy from cashing that ticket. Ludvig was right there. Looked like he had a chance to get into the playoff, had to birdie the 72nd hole to have an opportunity. But the young Swede, Ross, continues to play electrifying golf. I guess here's the real question that I have for you about Ludvig. Obviously, it was a disappointing finish. If you had to pick who gets their green jacket first, I know you didn't like Bryson's chances this year. I didn't necessarily either, but it seems like he's kind of figured a way to at least contend around here despite not having his best stuff. Ludvig or Bryson, who's getting the green jacket first?
The future's already going in on Ludvig for 2026.
Future's already going in?
Yeah. That we're just going to play off the narrative here that every pro will tell you it's the 3rd or 4th go around at Augusta is when you know that you need to hit it here because it's going to roll down here. You know that this putt is going to naturally roll this way. Ludvig's been in the top 5 and the top 10 the past 2 years, his first 2 go rounds here. What do you think happens in year 3? You don't think year 3, my 3rd time going here when I already have a top 5 and a top 10 in the past 2. You don't think year 3 is going to be even better than the previous 2?
I don't know, to be honest.
I'm just going off of the way people describe Augusta in the past and their historically, they always seem to improve if they understand it and they play well. They seem to get better and better. And I'm just going to say that I think next year, at this point, you're looking at Ludvig going a full 2.5 years on tour at that point, probably locking down another couple huge wins. I think next year it's honestly his to lose right now, which is kind of how he's performed these past 2 years there for being so young and on such short notice and limited rounds at the course. No, I think Bryson's right there with him, but I think you really need, if you go, how long has Bryson played at Augusta to we're now seeing that these performances there now, right? Versus how many times has Ludvig gone and we've just had this unbelievable result. Like I just think the talent is adding up that next year I would be very high on Ludvig coming through, and maybe you get a Jordan Spieth 2015-ish wire to wire, just deuces.
Yeah, I definitely understand the thought process. And I mean, Ludvig's talent is unbelievable. And for his first 2 trips to Augusta to go as well as they have, I mean, I certainly get it. And I do think he's going to get his green jacket probably sooner rather than later. The only pushback I'd have on that is, again, just with the futures market being what it is, you're not going to get a good number on Ludvig, right? And we've just seen Masters winners be guys who are coming in with that great form. I fully believe Ludvig's skill set because he hits the ball so far and so high and can get it to stop on these firm greens. Ross, he's going to be in the top 10, top 20 every year. The conversation of who gets it first, though, I really do think is an interesting one. I certainly understand going with Ludvig. That's probably the direction I'd even lean, but it'll be interesting to see for sure what kind of form he's coming into Augusta National with, but looks like a guy who's got the goods to win at least one green jacket here for sure. Ross, as Tweeth outlined in his article, the last kind of real talking point that I have from the Masters is I know we're up over an hour here. It's past 11 o'clock Eastern time on your side. We want to kind of tie a bow on this thing. Is the bounce backs that we got from the Masters as well. Obviously, resiliency with Rory McIlroy is going to be a theme, but we got some other really cool bounce back resiliency type of stories from a few other players as well that I definitely wanted to shout out here on the show. First and foremost, Nick Dunlap for firing a 90 in the opening round, getting bested by 19 by Freddie Couples. And Ross, I think I sent you a clip of it. If not, I told you to go and check it out for sure, I believe. But some of the tee shots that Nick Dunlap was hitting in that opening round, I mean, legitimately, like, were shots that me and you were hitting on the golf course. And the driver had been a problem for him for a long, long time. And you don't want to go into Augusta National trying to find your game. Nick Dunlap posts a 90 in the opening round, Ross. I think 99% of PGA Tour players or anyone who would have found themselves in that situation would have withdrawn before that second round. Not Nick Dunlap. Incredible resiliency out of this kid to go and stick with it and fire a 1 under 71, a 90-71, 19 shot swing from day one to day two out of Nick Dunlap. And what I thought was really cool, Ross, I don't know, obviously, the conversation that went on between Billy Horschel's caddy and Nick Dunlap after they got done with their second round, but I saw Billy Horschel's caddy immediately walk over to Nick Dunlap, and I had to figure it had to be something along the lines of like the courage that you just showed to stick it out and go and fire that second round, kid. For someone your age who's already a two-time PGA Tour winner, like, we all go through our struggles in this game, and you're gonna be just fine, kid. That's the kind of vibe that I got from seeing Billy Horschel's caddy like race over to Nick Dunlap, because for him to go 90-71 at his age and stick with it, go and do that on round two, like, truly deserves a round of applause, man. Like, super cool stuff out of Nicky Duns.
I had my hot take was that Nick Dunlap's performance is the most impressive performance I've seen at that I think is the most impressive performance in Masters history. Not dominant. Tiger 97 is going to be the most dominant, always running away with it. That was the most impressive. When are you ever going to see a 19 shot swing from a player, let alone sticking it out and grinding it out like that? He went and he admitted, he had Scotty was texting him. He had Willie Z walking up, giving him a hug. He had Sam Burns reaching out to him. He had all these players that were reaching out either the night before or the day after when he did what he did, and just giving him credit for what he went out and did there and to hold his head high, because that was admirable.
Definitely. And quite honestly, Ross, you saying like that was the most impressive thing at the Masters, I felt that way about a handful of different things, quite honestly. Max Homa finishing T12 after not making a cut with an event all season long, basically being out of sight, out of mind, and essentially like a Corn Ferry Tour level player since finishing T3 at the Masters last year. You said on the show, Max Homa to miss the cut, free money. I think the entire world thought it was going to be free money for Homa to miss the cut. Not only did he make the cut, Ross, he followed that up with a great weekend to finish T12. I thought that was incredible. Matt Fitzpatrick, who's been horrible basically since he won the U.S. Open nearly 2 years ago, he made the cut, didn't have a good Sunday, but wound up finishing T40. And even Bubba Watson, who legitimately, I wrote up a Live Power ranking article last week, ranking the 12 Live players that were in the field. Bubba Watson was number 12 for me in my confidence ranking. He hadn't finished in the top 10 on Live since May 2023. Bubba Watson finished T12. That is truly T14, excuse me, for Bubba, T12 for Max Homa. Like, there were a lot of different impressive things that happened throughout the course of the week that had nothing to do with Rory McIlroy as well.
Yeah, I mean, super happy for Max because Max has just ended up being the butt of a joke forever. And it's one of those things that, it's mental health and all these other things that he's just working through and trying to find himself. But Bubba is like Phil for me at Augusta. That just, I'm never going to say anything bad about any of these guys when it comes to Augusta because they can just sling the shots that other people can't. They know if I put it here where it's going to go and other guys don't. It's the same reason that Freddie Couples pushes the cut every single year or fires off a day one low round with the easier pins. Just they know where it needs to be. The only person that could play Augusta better is the marker. The marker is the only person in the field that could play Augusta better than anyone else in there.
Oh, I wish I could remember his name off of the top of my head, but I saw the stories floating around throughout the course of the week. Another Grizzly veteran who, former Masters champion, who wound up popping up into the top 10 with an incredible final round, Zach Johnson at -5. That's about all the airtime I'll give Zach Johnson on this podcast. Two other finishes that I wanted to give a shout out to, Ross. Matt McCarty for finishing T14 in his Masters debut, I thought was super impressive, and he was in one of the final pairings on Saturday, and hung around and played pretty good golf until I think he made a double bogey on number 16 or number 17 that kind of took him out of legitimate contention, but he hung around a lot longer than I think anyone would have imagined. And I know this one is probably going to be a little bit of a stinger to you, Ross, but I truly think this might be the most incredible finish of the entire week. Wyndham Clark, U.S. Open champion, finished T46. Shane Lowry, former Open champion, finished T42. Matt Fitzpatrick, U.S. Open winner, finished T40. Justin Thomas, two-time PGA champion, T36. Brian Harmon, Open champion, finished T36. Who beat all of those guys this week? Brian fucking Campbell finished T32 at the Masters. What? This guy hits 260-yard drive. He had to have scrambled his ass off. But good for Brian Campbell. Finishing it inside the top 35 at the Masters. Truly another impressive feat. I don't know what impresses me more between all that stuff I just outlined. But a lot of incredible stuff that I don't think any of us saw coming. But that's what makes the Masters so special, Ross.
Yeah, I might put a future first round lead ticket on Brian Campbell. I was actually really impressed.
I could be wrong here. I listened to a ton of research throughout the course of the week. I believe Brian Campbell either had family trips to Hilton Head Island or he has some sort of family ties to Hilton Head Island. So first round leader Brian Campbell might be full steam ahead, Ross, for the RBC Heritage this week. One last guy I want to give credit to, Ross, because both you and I were on him. So was our guy Ryan French over at Monday Q. And he toughed it out, I think, a lot longer than anyone expected. And is a guy who we wagered on from further down the board, and Corey Connors at, 60, 65, 70 to 1, whatever number you got him at. Corey Connors continues to hang in major championships. Admittedly, I didn't really think his chances of coming through were all that great, but the way that he played on Saturday in that penultimate pairing with Rory, after literally he had to have been so mind blown watching Rory go with 6 threes in a row, nuking driver all over the place while Corey plays his straight and narrow game, just plotting it 280, hitting greens in regulation. But for him to shoot 2 under 70 and still give himself a chance going into Sunday, Ross, I think that's really all we could have asked out of the veteran Canadian.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he played well into the weekend. I think he made himself known once again that how good he is. And I think it's open for debate for the future. I wouldn't be surprised to see Corey Connors do this again next year at Augusta.
Will definitely not be the last time I have Corey Connors on a major championship betting card. Ryan French, speaking of the man, had one of the funniest threads that I've ever seen on X, declaring that it was finally Rory McIlroy's year, only for his heart to get broken several different times throughout the course of that final round. Make sure to check it out if you don't already, and as well as all the other great content that Ryan French from Monday Q Info produces. Ross, I know it's been a long and lengthy episode. I know it's late for you on the East Coast. Thank you very much for bearing through it all to talk about Rory McIlroy's epic win on today's show. Any final thoughts before we go and wrap up this episode?
Nope, still doesn't feel real, but it's incredible.
Still legitimately felt like I was living in a dream all day long. One of the most epic weeks of sports I've ever watched. An epic week for us over here at On Tap Sportsnet. A full squad ride on Rory McIlroy. A ton of incredible articles. Joey and I were on the Justin Rose first round leader. And I don't like to toot my own horn all that much, but I feel like it's time to do so. I got 4 outright betting winners in the first 15 events of the season. I have more than doubled my money on the year. Going to be hard to keep that up, but for all you fine folks who are watching right now, make sure to go and check out ontapsportsnet.com to stay up to date on all of the latest great articles that we produce, as well as my betting picks, my previews, all of the great content that Ross produces. We got Tweeth Mitchell joining aboard, and he already has killed it with his debut piece. We got Savannah along with the ride with us as well. It is going to be fun creating this content over at On Tap Sportsnet. Make sure to check it out so you don't miss out on that. But thank you everyone for tuning in on the show. Rory McIlroy wins the Masters. One of the best weekends of all time. One that neither of us will ever forget. Until next week, everyone, have a great rest of your day. Crack 'em, lock 'em,